Rich bio. It all starts from zero. Howard Schultz is the man behind the success of America's favorite coffee shop, Starbucks. Though he is worth billions of dollars today, Schultz's story is marked with numerous challenges that he was able to overcome and transform into opportunities for success. This is the story of how Howard Schultz went from poverty to leading one of the most recognized brands in the world. Howard Schultz was born in Brooklyn, New York, and lived with his family in federally subsidized housing. His father, Fred, did not graduate high school, limiting his employment options, and as a result, the Schultz family constantly struggled to make ends meet. Fred spent years working as a factory worker, military trooper, and truck driver, barely able to make up to $20,000 a year. The bulk of Fred's earnings went to taking care of his household and providing for the needs of his growing children, and with nothing left over taking care of his responsibilities, the Schultz family were forced to live a modest lifestyle. Howard Schultz always recalls these days of struggle positively, understanding that his struggles helped shape him into the man that he would grow to become. Though he admires his father, Schultz admits that his father was often physically abusive. In Howard's view, his dad was an honest, hard-working man who was the victim of a system that didn't have a place for him. Things became especially difficult when Fred broke his ankle at work in 1961 and could no longer provide for his family. Howard, who was 7 at the time, had arrived home that day to find his father lying on their living room couch with a cast on his leg. Without it having to be said directly, Howard understood what was going on. His father had lost his job and their family was no longer protected. His father had no health insurance and had received no workman's compensation or severance. The Schultz family had nothing to fall back on. Fred felt defeated. His self-esteem had been crushed, and unable to bear his frustration, Fred became physically abusive to his children. Howard and his siblings were forced to wake up to a malevolent reality. They adjusted and quickly took up the responsibility of picking up the phone in case they were being called by bill collectors. Despite enduring poverty and abuse, Schultz always believed he would grow to be in a position where he could help people and make a difference. With his childhood as a backdrop, Howard himself could not have predicted his future success. In Howard's own words, "When I was 7 years old, I had a defining moment in my life," Schultz said. "I saw the fracturing of the American dream, and I saw my parents go through hopelessness and despair, and those scars, that shame, that is with me even today." Schultz gained admission into Northern Michigan University after earning an athletics scholarship. However, he decided not to play sports after a short time in university and focused on studying and working to survive through school. After Howard received his bachelor's degree, he spent 3 years in sales and marketing with Xerox Corporation. He then served as the vice president and general manager of Hammerplast USA, a Swedish housewares company. It was after his stint here that he discovered Starbucks and began to lay the foundation for what would go down as one of the most legendary retail expansions of all time. Howard Schultz's relationship with Starbucks began in 1981 when he walked into their shop in Seattle's Pike Place. Unknown to him, this would be the start of a long and thrilling adventure. Starbucks had been buying many of the Hammerplast Swedish drip coffee makers he was selling. While there, he had his first Sumatra and made friends with the co-founders, who were connoisseurs. He soon discovered that they had dedicated themselves to finding and roasting the best quality coffee and were instantly won over by their passion. At the time, Starbucks had only 4 stores. Howard, however, saw its potential and would immediately begin to work on joining the company. Howard spent a whole year convincing the co-founders to hire him, and eventually, they gave in, and in 1982, they made him Starbucks' Director of Marketing and Operations. Schultz's goals for Starbucks were lofty from the start. He had no intention of running a small regional chain of coffee shops, and he aimed much higher. Schultz wanted Starbucks to become an international brand, one that would join the ranks of large chains like McDonald's. Schultz himself admitted to being inspired by McDonald's, taking care to mention that the Starbucks model does have some key differences from McDonald's. One such difference is Schultz's lack of faith in franchises. Schultz does not believe strong brands can be built around them. Howard's vision for the company was influenced greatly by a visit to Italy, which many consider to be the home of coffee. His experience there was life-changing. He fell in love with the Italian coffee experience and the romantic aesthetic of its coffee bars. While there, Schultz noticed that there were coffee bars on almost every block. He also learned that the country had over 200,000 coffee bars, showing how important it was to Italian culture. Howard saw how central coffee bars were to communities in Italy, and he decided he would recreate this in the United States to be the pioneer of a coffeehouse tradition, the kind of which had never been seen in the United States. Schultz was not satisfied with just serving great coffee in choice locations, and he wanted the company to be a driving force in American culture, something that was alive and impactful. Something that was alive and impactful on a national scale and beyond the country's borders. The problem was that, at the time, the company only sold coffee beans. However, Schultz, determined as ever, had decided to make Starbucks his life mission and devoted himself to his vision for the American coffee house. The company's co-founders did not like the idea of opening coffee shops, and after a while, a frustrated Schultz left to start his own company. He left Starbucks and started his own coffee houses with the brand name Il Giornale. He would later return to Starbucks in 1987. This time, though, he would be returning as the company's CEO and would purchase Starbucks along with local investors. Schultz bought Starbucks for $3.8 million. Howard believed in a culture of compassion and applied this to the company, raising the standard for American work environments. This compassion would reach his part-time and full-time employees, who he provided with opportunities to own equity in the company in the form of stock, which he called bean stock. This was unheard of for a retail chain, especially one so successful. All Starbucks employees that worked 20 hours a week or more were made eligible for comprehensive health coverage, which also covers their domestic partners. Naturally, this move did a lot to increase staff loyalty and zeal. Howard believes that treating employees benevolently should not be viewed as an added cost that cuts into profits, but as a powerful energizer that can grow the enterprise into something far greater than one leader could envision. Under Howard's leadership, Starbucks' success soared. The company went from having just 4 stores to over 3,000 stores and opening stores in Europe, China, and Japan. Howard stepped down from his role as CEO in the year 2000 and began to serve as the company's global chief strategist and chairman. The reason for this switching of roles was to lead the company's international expansion. He would once again return as CEO in 2008, ready to usher the company into a new era of growth and success. Over the next 10 years, Starbucks would grow from having 15,000 stores to over 30,000. He would continue to show his dedication to the community by making efforts to improve the company's customer experience and bringing Starbucks closer to the heart of the local communities by opening community stores and military family stores. He also created educational opportunities by launching the Starbucks College Achievement Plan, a program that helps Starbucks employees access free college education online. Not to mention that the company hired tens of thousands of military veterans and spouses, as well as refugees. Schultz himself said, "Success is empty if you arrive at the finish line alone. The best reward is to get there surrounded by winners." Howard retired from the company in 2008, but in April 2022, he returned as interim chief executive officer and a member of the board of directors. Today, he is just as dedicated to his vision for the company as ever. Schultz continues to pursue a vision that transcends profit-making. His belief that Starbucks can be a force that inspires and nurtures the human spirit continues to reflect in the company's policies and customer experience. Schultz refused to let his circumstances limit him and decided instead to look beyond his struggles and contribute meaningfully to his country and the world. To end with a quote from Schultz, "I am convinced that most people can achieve their dreams and beyond if they have the determination to keep trying."